Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Gunatitamānam chidananda rūpam chidabhāsakam sarvagam dhyānagamyam munidhyeyam ākāsha rūpam paresham parabrahma rūpam ganesham bhajema. Team Param Vedanta extends a warm welcome to one and all for today's 68th session. Today, we shall be studying few verses, selected verses of from Mundaka Upanishad, Prathama Khanda. Friends, Mundaka Upanishad is one among the major Upanishads which deals with Atma or Brahman. These selected verses shall be explained by our team of Param Vedanta teachers, Dr. Ahalya, Dr. Sundar, Dr. Ravi Shankar, Dr. Anupama, and Srimati Cheta, under the guidance of our revered Dr. Timmappa Hegde sir, who shall give us the introduction to the day's topic. Today, we have a spiritual treat, chanting of Sri Shiva Manasa Puja Stotram, a mental worship of Lord Shiva, where Shodashopachara, the outer act of puja, is internalized, like offering of fragrant flowers, dhuparati, karpurarti, etc. All imagined by the worshipper, but importantly, with deep devotion. This is composed by Bhagavad Pada Adi Shankaracharya, and it is highly absorbing, offers a powerful way to evoke the presence of Lord Shiva. We know that loud chanting of Namajapa is good, but soft chanting is better, and yet best is Manasa Japa. So too is Manasa Puja. By being absorbed in mental worship of your chosen deity or Guru, the worshipper recognizes the God within oneself, which is the ultimate. This stotram is chanted by one of Param Vedanta's youngest, Kumari Aditi. Let us listen and benefit from the auspicious vibrations generated from the chanting of this stotram during this auspicious Dhanur Masa. Without much ado, I request Dr. Timmappa Hegde sir to kindly take over.
Thank you, Shiv Kumar. Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. It is appropriate that on New Year's Eve, we begin the study of the Mundakopanishad. The Mundakopanishad is a wonderful Upanishad to get to know our true nature. And we are not going to study selected verses. We will study each verse. Every verse of it will be studied. And the way we are going to study it is in between chapters. We have finished the 9th chapter. Now we come to the 10th chapter. So we will select the verses will continue at the end of each chapter. Hopefully, it is so planned by the end of the 18th chapter. As we conclude the Bhagavad Gita, we will have a very clear understanding of each verse of this very rich Upanishad. The world of the Upanishads is a higher level of study and therefore a deeper spiritual journey. Any spiritual journey is not an outer journey. Spiritual journey happens for those who have explored the external world, who have found the futility, who have succeeded, but realize that nothing fails like success. And therefore, at some stage, fortunately, if they come across a wise guru who holds a mirror to them and tells them the next journey or the real journey is an inner journey. Whenever the river decides to retreat, that means the river, instead of going from the source to the goal, in many places, like in Haridwar or in Varanasi, these places, the river takes a 180-degree turn. Those are very holy kshetras where the river has decided to come back to the source. What we are doing is, whenever we come back to ourselves, we are taking a spiritual journey or an inward journey. This journey requires a certain eligibility. Just like if you're going to Kailash and Manasarovar, you need a certain amount of physical and mental toughness So to study the Upanishads, we need a certain amount of Jñāna yogyata. And that comes through certain years of karma and upasana. Then we need a qualified teacher who is able to give us the essence of the Upanishads. Once we get the essence of the Upanishads, the student will meditate on these words of the teacher until it becomes an emotional strength. And therefore, the spiritual exercise that combine our spiritual journey is Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga that we are doing every day, which gives us Jnana Yogyata, Shravanam, listening to the teacher, Mananam, clarifying all the doubts, and Nidityasanam, when we decide to internalize these teachings, which look very impossible. The teacher says, you are the only truth, and I feel I'm so ordinary. The teacher says the world around you is not as real as you think. Now, these doubts will be there, but once these doubts are removed, then I need to work on myself to make this a reality for myself. For a spiritual journey, we need a very good body-mind. The Kathopanishad gives the Ratha Kalpana example, where the body is compared to a chariot. The sense organs, the horses here represent the sense organs. The sense organs of the mind are my driving force. And because of that, I'm able to achieve so much in the world. But if you have to go into an inner journey or even success in the outer journey, you need somebody like Kaivartaka Keshava, Yogeshwara Krishna to sit on the driving seat. And all of us have that higher principle in us. And when you put that higher principle in us to drive my sense organs and my mind, then my path in my life becomes very clear. And therefore, these are certain essentials for us in a spiritual journey. What is our objective? We need to be able to attain to Paramapurushartha. Or first, let us know what is this thing called moksha or Paramapurushartha. It is the discovery that permanent peace, security, and happiness is not outside of me, that permanent peace, security, and happiness is there within me. I need to discover that. Second, moksha is an understanding that nothing adverse in the external world, my family, my work, my possessions, including my body and mind, cannot affect me because I am of a higher order of reality. Although I see suffering outside, I see difficulty in my own body and mind, there is no suffering. It is just like when I see a movie, there is a tragic scene, but then is there a suffering? I am the illuminator. I am witnessing a tragic scene. That is the vision of a jnani. That is a vision of a person who is a jivan mukta. Such a person, although is attached to this body, and this body and mind has its own limitations, such a person is free while alive. Such a person has discovered that the outer world can give a lot of pleasure and happiness, but the real permanent peace, security, and happiness happens within myself. And therefore, I will not let myself to be affected by anything adverse that happens around me. Few qualifications we need to remind ourselves again and again. A spiritual student has a viveka to see what is permanent, what is impermanent. Anything around me, including my body and mind, whatever I can experience is impermanent. And therefore, I do not invest on it. And when I do not make much investment on it, I have dispassion to all that. That is called vairagya. On the other hand, I have a keen desire. Top priority in my life is moksha. I want to experience, I want to know what is moksha. And for that, there are few disciplines. Just like I gave you that horse example, shama dama. That means I need to have sense control. I need to have mind control. Uparama means an inward journey. So far I've been going outside, but now I look within. I have a certain amount of mental toughness to take whatever difficulties that come in my way. I have shraddha. What my guru is saying, what the scriptures is saying is gospel truth. And I can clarify that with my teacher. My teacher is open to any form of discussion about that. It is not a blind belief, but it is a shraddha, but my teacher is not going to mislead me. And then samadhana is when I have some job in hand, I can be there 100%. I have the ability to focus. Today we enter into the world of the Upanishads, and the great master Bhagwan Osho had this to say about the Upanishads. This is something most enchanting, most mysterious. It is the highest in spiritual quest. And he says this, never before and never after has human consciousness attained to such Himalayan heights. When you study these words of the Mundaka, there will be moments when for no reason you will experience tremendous amount of joy when a teacher is able to reveal these meanings, the meaning of these verses for us. Upanishads have a lot of synonyms. Upanishads also mean Vedanta, or the end portion of the Veda. Another synonym is Jñāna kānda. That means, or Atma Vidya, knowledge of my true self, Brahma Vidya. All these are synonyms for the word Upanishad. The Upanishads are in Sanskrit. It is also called Deva Vani. Vani means the speech of the Devas and the language of the people of the Devas. The town that they lived in is Devanagari. It is the oldest language on earth. The word Samskritam means something that is refined, polished, and transformed. The language itself was transformed because so many enlightened people who were using this language, something of their joy, something of their enlightenment has penetrated into this language. The Vedas are also called Shrutis, and the Vedas can be broadly divided into Veda Purva, which deal with Dharma, Artha, Kama fulfillment through various rituals and through various upasanas. And the end portion, and a small portion, but that is the rich part, is called Veda Anta, which is the philosophical part which tells us about our true nature and helps us to discover what this moksha is. We can break the word Upanishad into Upanishad. Upa means Guru Upasadanam. The inward journey begins by going towards a Guru. Ni means to sit down. The Guru is always at a higher level. I will sit down. Shad means to destroy. Destroy all the sense of limitations, the sense of samsara, the sense of ignorance. One meaning. Upa also means Atma. Ni means I am absolutely convinced of this. This knowledge is doubtless. Shad means the process of taking you towards this. That is another meaning of the word Upanishad. Upanishads have been classified by scholars as major and minor, simply because those Upanishads where we have commentary by great acharyas like Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, and Madhvacharya are considered as major Upanishads. Those Upanishads where we do not have these commentary are called minor Upanishads, but they are as major as the other Upanishads. There is no difference because they talk about the same Brahman. But because we have very good commentaries and we know how to understand these mantras, many people have focused on these major Upanishads. It is said at one time there were 1,180 Upanishads, but now about 108 are available. 10 of them have been commented by Adi Shankara and other great masters, and that's why they are called the major Upanishad. You see a picture of Rama and Hanuman. Rama is also a Brahma Vidya Acharya, and Hanuman is like us, a student of Brahma Vidya, in an Upanishad called Upanishad. And in Upanishad, the teacher Rama tells Hanuman all about the Upanishads, the number of Upanishads available. Now, Veda Anta, because these are from the end part of the Vedas, they come from each of the Vedas. For instance, these major Upanishads, 10 of them, the Rig Veda, which is the longest, has got only one major Upanishad, the Aitareya Upanishad. The Yajur Veda can be divided into Shukla and Krishna. In the Shukla Yajur Veda, we have two Upanishads, Brihadaranyaka and Ishavasya. The Krishna Yajur Veda has got two wonderful Upanishads. All of them are wonderful only, Taittiriya and Kathopanishad. The Sama Veda has got two delightful Upanishads, Kenopanishad and Chandogya. The Atharva Veda has got three major Upanishads, Prashna, Mundaka, Mandukya, and one popular minor Upanishad called the Kaivalya Upanishad. Now, those which I have highlighted and read are those which are popularly studied because of the relative ease and the size of those Upanishads. Because there are so many Upanishads, the students may sometimes ask, Master, how many Upanishads should we study? And Bhagwan Ramana says, to see yourself, how many mirrors do you need? One Upanishad is enough for Paramapurushartha. And that one Upanishad that we have chosen is the Mundakopanishad. So today we start the study of the Mundakopanishad. As I already said, it comes from the Atharva Vēda. Munda means the head. It has got 3 chapters, 2 sections. Altogether, there will be 6 sections, totally 65 mantras. And we have divided it in such a way that we will complete the study of the Mundaka by the time we complete the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Before we study any of the Upanishads, there is a practice of chanting the Shanti Pata, which is common to every Veda. For instance, the Mundaka comes from the Atharva Vēda. The Atharva Vēda has got a tremendously beautiful Shanti Pata, which everyone should chant every day. The beauty of this Shanti Pata is not in its meaning alone. These Vedic mantras have certain meters, and it is said even if you do not know the meaning, if you are able to chant it, Om Bhadram Karnebi Shrunayama Devaha. Now, why do we chant these mantras? Ashanti Pata. Now, we are beginning the study of the Upanishads. But I have various kinds of prarabdhas. My prarabdha may interrupt my study. So this is like going to Bhagwan and say, Bhagwan, I'm studying Mundakopanishad, can you give me a stay order? Stay order means until I finish the study of the Upanishads, there should be no obstacles. So this is traditionally, so that my prarabdha will come maybe after my class or sometime later, but my class should not be interrupted because I value this interaction with the teacher. Bhagavan, do not bring in obstacles. So both the teacher and the student will chant so that not only through my own effort, I'm able to download grace. This prayer begins with Bhadram Karnebi Shrunayama Devaha. O Bhagwan, whatever I listen to, it may be auspicious. That means I expose myself to everything auspicious. But when I interact with the world, I see a lot of or hear many things inauspicious, but do I have the ability to convert the inauspicious to the auspicious? That is the power of the mind. And then there is the prayer, give me good health so that I can finish the study of the Upanishads. I do not know how long you have decided my life. As long as you give me my life, let me be in good health. And then it concludes by Shanti, Shanti, Shanti 3 times. This Shanti Pata is addressed to Indra. Pusha is the nourisher sun. Tarksha is Garuda Deva. Brihaspati. So these are the devatas we address to, and we say Shanti, Shanti 3 times for obstacles from Adi Daivika, Adi Bhautika, and Adhyatmika. With this very auspicious beginning, we have Dr. Ahalya, who will explain the first and second mantras for us. Over to you, Dr. Ahalya.
Namaste. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Mundaka 1, Khanda 1, Shloka 1. Om Brahma Devanam Pratamaha Sambhabhuva Vishwasya Karta Bhuvanasya Gopta Sab Brahma Vidyam Sarva Vidya Pratishtam Atharvaya Jeshta Putraya Praha. This is the first shloka of Mundakopanishad. The Mundakopanishad starts with an introduction in the first 3 mantras about the topic it covers. It glorifies, the next slide, sir. It glorifies the Vidya Mahima. That is, it asks us to develop a value for this invaluable teaching of Atma Vidya, of self-knowledge. It talks about the Guru Lakshana, the qualification of a Guru, of Shishya Lakshana, the qualification of a Shishya. The Upanishad says that the teaching is in the form of a great tradition of an unbroken lineage, avichinna parampara of the Guru and Shishya. And 6 Gurus are mentioned in the first 2 verses, and they are Brahmaji himself, Atharva, Angira, Bharadwaja, Angirasa, and Shaunaka. Let's look into the word meaning. Om Brahmadevanam Pratamaha. That is, the Adi Guru of Vedanta was born first, even before the birth of all other gods. Brahmaji here refers to the Chaturmukha Brahma, which we normally see depicting the four Vedas. Vishwasya Karta. He is the creator of the whole universe. He created the Prajapati, the 14 Lokas, the Manu, Manava. Everything that we see is created by him. Bhuvanasya Gopta. He is the protector of the universe also, assuming the form of Vishnu. So he is the creator and the protector, which makes Brahmaji the Sarvajnaha and Sarvashaktiman. Sa Brahma Vidyam Praha. He is the greatest philosopher who has initiated the tradition of Brahma Vidya, the knowledge of Brahman, the knowledge of Atman, the knowledge of the truth of the creation and oneself. Next slide, sir. Sarva Vidya Pratishtam. Now, what is the glory of this teaching? Pratishta means culmination, parisamapti. Culmination of what? Sarva Vidya. All the other branches of science is called Sarva Vidya. Whether it is the study of language, physics, or chemistry, any branch of science will have its culmination only when all the material sciences lead a person to spiritual science. Whatever be the branch of science one has specialized, one can understand Vedanta in a beautiful way through that particular science. Without self-knowledge, understanding all the other Shastras, Swamiji says, is like zero. Like all zeros get their value when prefixed by one, similarly, the spiritual knowledge alone can validate all the other sciences, and all the other sciences reach their culmination, their fulfillment in this knowledge. And that is the final knowledge, Parisamapti, Sarva Vidya Pratishtam. Atharvaya, Jeshta Putraya Praha. Brahmaji taught this to his son, and the method of studying Vedas from one's own father is supposed to be the most auspicious thing and is called Niyamadhyayanam. The next shloka. Atharvanayam pravadeta brahma atarvatam puro vachangire brahma vidyam sab bharadvajaya satyavahaya praha bharadvajo angirase paravaram. This is the next shloka, which talks about the lineage and the way one guru taught it to the other shishya. The first one, Atharvanayam pravadeta brahma atarvatam. The direct disciple of Brahma, Atharva, taught it to his disciple, who is called Angi or Angira. Puro vachangire. When did he teach? Long, long before. We do not know the antiquity. It has been there, is what the Upanishad itself is talking of. Sa Bharadvajaya Satyavahaya. So Angi taught it to his disciple Bharadvaja, who was Satyavaha or Satyavaha. Both the terms are accepted. That is, it talks about the quality of a Shishya who should be Satyavaha, who should only speak the truth. So the quality of a Shishya is also covered here. Bharadvaja Angirase Paravaram. Bharadvaja further taught it to Angirasa. So every generation was so truthful to this teaching that not only they benefited it, they wanted the benefit to come to the next generation also. And that is how we have this unbroken tradition of the Guru Shishya Parampara, bringing to us this great knowledge of thousands of years, making it a living tradition. The word Paravaram is important here, just as we saw the word Sarva Vidya Pratishta in the last shloka. Sarva Vidya Pratishta meant knowledge which makes all the other branches of science meaningful and valid. Paravaram, para is the superior one, avara is the inferior one. In this context, para refers to the guru and avara refers to the shishya. So paravaram is from the guru to the shishya, or from the higher to the lower, is what it means. As the shloka says, parasmat parasmat guroho avarena avarena shishyena prapta ya vidya sa paravara ityuchyate. Like the Ganges that is flowing from the higher to the lower, this vidya, this Atma Vidya is also eternal like the Ganges flowing from the Guru to the Shishya. In the next shlokas, we shall see from Shaunaka onwards, and the tradition continues that way. Namaste. Hari Om.
Thank you, Dr. Ahalya, for a very auspicious Bhadram beginning, very nicely explained the first two mantras of this glorious Upanishad. So we now have the opportunity to study an Upanishad which has come to us from Brahmaji himself. Let us treat this as very sacred and do our very best, thanks to the great Acharyas we have like Swami Paramarthanandaji, who have explained every word which Dr. Ahalya has brought out, the significance of each of these verses. This Upanishad begins with a brilliant question, which will be explained to us by Dr. Kiran. Over to you, Dr. Kiran.
Namaste. Gurubhyo Namaha. This mantra introduces Shishya and the subject. Angirasa is asked, kasmin no bhagavo vijnate sarvam-idam vijnaatam bhavati iti. O Bhagavan, what is that knowing which everything becomes known? This mind-boggling question sets the tone for entire Upanishad. Shaunaka, Shishya, is a Mahashala. That means he is a Grihastha like you and me. But he is a great Grihastha. Why? He has got a Pakashala, that is a very big kitchen, not for gastronomic delights, but for Annadanam. Any person who comes in, needy person, should not go empty stomach. This is the Shrestha Dana. Next, he has got a big Yagashala for rituals and tapaha. So, in short, he has done adequate Danam and tapaha. He has performed Pancha Mahayajna adequately. Grihastha Ashrama is important for refinement of the mind, especially for developing Vairagyam and Viveka. Each ashrama is a pit stop for spiritual growth. And he approaches Upasanna traditionally, Vidhivat, closely. He doesn't phone and say, hi, Guru, teach me. He says Vidhivat with open-minded, humble Shraddha and Bhakti. He addresses his Guru as Bhagavan, that is God himself, Dakshinamurti Narayana. Next slide, please. Kasmin Vijnata. He wants to know the absolute truth, that is Vijnate, not Gnate. Sarvam-idam vijnata bhavati. What, knowing this, a person knows everything in the creation. Here, Shishya is adequately qualified. He has examined life as it were and is seeking the highest and the ultimate. Shishya already knows that this triangular format, which Sir has explained, is not complete and something is missing. And he has an inkling that there must be something, one thing, ekam, which is cause for all. That is why he is asking sarvam. How can we know everything by knowing just one thing? It's not like just because we study Upanishad, we will know quantum physics, metallurgy, etc. Let us study this in detail. Take this example of this pen. This pen now has come into existence or has come into being. It is come into being because of what? Let us not go into the plastic and what it is made up of. You will tell me it has come into being because of me and you. We are the knower and this is the knower. So my eyes is the knower. And what is that which makes the eyes know? That is, what is that which makes I come into existence? What is that which makes this body come into existence? What is that which makes this mind come into existence? If we put all the knower as becoming known and put into a basket, and what is that which ultimate thing which is the knower of this? That is that I want. This is what he is asking. This is the ultimate and profound question. This is the Mula Karanam he wants to know. Next slide. Mula Jagat Karanam and Mula Jagat Adhisthana, the substratum of all he wants to know. This question itself has important corollaries. Next slide. Because it talks about cause is one and effects. Karanam ekam, cause is one. And whereas karyam, the effects are many. Gold is one, ornaments can be many. Karanam is sara, that is, it is the substrate, and karyam effect is asara. Gold alone is there in the ornament, rest all is nama rupa. Karanam is nitya, it is same in all periods of time, place, and object. It is not like, I take a gold ornament and by the time I go home, it becomes silver. Then it is not the cause. Karanam is satyam, it is same in all periods of time, whereas karyam is relative. So this one question itself has so many derivations. Then imagine how this Upanishad will be. So buckle up and be ready for that takeoff. One thing I want you to contemplate, why Shaunaka wants to know this ultimate thing. The answer lies in Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunatu. Contemplate on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kiran. That was a nice explanation of perhaps one of the most profound questions ever asked in the whole Vedanta literature. I will say this is the most brilliant question ever asked. Here is a student who comes to a teacher and he knows his teacher is a Jnāni. And therefore, how does he approach the teacher? As if he is Bhagavan. Very reverentially, he will come and say, "Oh Bhagavan, can you let me know that knowledge, knowing which everything worth knowing is known?" That means possibly there is something. This whole Upanishad is an answer to that fact, knowing which. Now, there are so many teachers who have gone through the Upanishad, and if you ask them, has this question been answered? The answer is with great conviction, yes. We will study the Upanishad. And once you study the Upanishad, you will know that there is some answer, at knowing which you will be utterly fulfilled in all aspects of your life. Let us see how the teacher will now answer this question. Fourth and fifth mantra will be explained by Dr. Ravi Shankar. Over to you, Dr. Ravi Shankar.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shaunaka is a very accomplished student and he is a great householder, pious character. He's a rich man. He has a lot of devotion and a lot of faith. And he's done a lot of Vedic sacrifices, but he seems to be dissatisfied. And that's why this profound question has been put in the previous verses. What is that by knowing which everything else is known? And let's understand the importance of this word which. The use of this word which here indicates that this man is intelligent and he is an intelligent bargainer. He wants minimum investments and maximum returns. A guru-made man is eulogized more than a self-made man, and he is thirsty for knowledge and he wants to know everything. To this Shaunaka, in the next slide we see his teacher Angirasa explaining Tasmai Sahovacha. He says both spirit and matter exist in this world. Dve vidye viditavye. And this higher knowledge or Brahma Vidya is the meaning for all of us seekers who want liberation from samsara and maya. This is the only route of liberation. Nanya pantha vidyate anaya. There is no other route. The Veda's aim is to take all of us towards liberation, and it has both the higher and the lower knowledge. The sages clearly have laid a route map. The higher knowledge is the spiritual path, and the lower knowledge is about the secular matter. Both of them are needed. The karma kanda and the upasana are the lower knowledge, predominantly for chitta shuddhi and attaining the prerequisite qualification to get the higher knowledge. They go hand in hand and they do not antagonize. We notice that Brahma Vidaha is a great seer who has known Brahman, and he says, Paracha eva aparacha. Higher knowledge is Paravidya. Lower knowledge is Aparavidya. Brahma Vidya is the aim of all the knowledge contained in the Vedas. In the next verse, these are further explained. Apara Vidya includes the 4 Vedas, the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, the Sama Veda, and the Atharva Veda, and the 6 Vedangas of the limbs. Shiksha is phonetics, Kalpa is rituals, Vyakarana is grammar, Niruktam is etymology, Chandas is metrics, and Jyotish is astrology. Apara Vidya is very extensive, and its perfection should not end us into a cul-de-sac. It is enough to know the taste of some of the ocean to know it is salty than the whole ocean. Apara Vidya is essential for qualification to gain Paravidya. It is the Vyavaharika reality. It is the transactional phenomenal world. It helps us to know, and then we do. And this is hence an additive knowledge, and so we get a fruit out of it. We further notice in the next slide that Paravidya has been explained as the higher knowledge. Yaya tad aksharam adhigamyate. Higher knowledge is Paramarthika reality, the spiritual reality, transcendental, and it is Brahma Vidya. This knowledge is subtractive. We remove ignorance and then we reveal knowledge. It is only to know, there is nothing to do. And this knowing itself is the fruit. As our teacher says, there's nowhere to go and there's nothing to do. That is important. So lower knowledge to higher knowledge is a movement from I am the body-mind complex to I am. And this shift is from akshara, the word and its meaning, to aksharam, the imperishable. This is the shift from learning Vedas by heart to knowing the subtle meaning that is embedded in the Vedas. Spiritual maturity helps to understand it. So Shaunaka's question is to express the need for Brahma Vidya for a person who has perfected Apara Vidya. Apara Vidya and God's vibhutis in this world are extensive and endless in projection. Dreams have no end. They end as soon as we wake up. Apara Vidya has no end. It ends with Paravidya. Hari Om Sir.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi Shankar. That was a very crisp explanation of 2 very profound verses, 2 profound mantras in which the great teacher Angiras has taken over in response to that question, what is that knowing which everything becomes known? And before he addresses the student, he will say there are 2 kinds of knowledge. One is called para and the other is called apara. Apara is all the objective knowledge, medical engineering knowledge. Para is the knowledge of aksharam, the indestructible, that is your true nature. So he has made a certain classification of para and apara. And this is the same thing that we see in the 7th chapter and in the 9th chapter, Jñānam and Vijnātam, where Sri Krishna has brought out the same teaching in the 7th and in the 9th chapter, the higher and the lower knowledge. Although he talks about Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and all the Vedas as apara, we must remember the Vedanta part is what is called in Paravidya, which talks about the Akshara. What is this Aksharam? Dr. Anupama, please.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Mantra 6. Yatad adreshyam agrahyam agotram avarnam achakshu shrotram tad apanipadam nityam vibhum sarvagatam susukshmam tad avyayam yad bhutayonim paripashyanti dhiraha. The Anvayam goes like this. Yad adreshyam agrahyam tat aksharam bhavati. Yat agotram avarnam tat aksharam bhavati. Yat achakshuhu shrotram apanipadam tat aksharam bhavati. Dhiraha nityam vibhum sarvagatam susukshmam avyayam bhutayonim paripashyanti. Brahman is that which cannot be perceived or grasped. It is without a source, without properties, without eyes, ears, hands, legs. It is timeless, all-pervading, extremely subtle. It becomes many.
It is imperishable and is the material cause of all things. Discriminative people or Vivekis see Brahman everywhere. We see that Lord Krishna has borrowed many of these words from this verse to describe Brahman in chapter 12, verse 3. Ye tvaksharam anirdesham avyaktam paryupasate sarvatragam achintyam cha utastham achalam dhruvam. This mantra is analyzed in the Brahma Sutra because it is very significant. It has two parts. The first part is the definition of Aksharam Brahman as beyond subject-object duality, unconditioned by time and space, therefore eternal. In the second part, Brahman is described as the only cause of the world. This, in fact, is the very answer to the question asked by Shaunaka in the beginning, which was, what is that knowing which everything else is known? Once the one and only cause of everything is known, one can know all the products because products have no existence separate from the cause. By knowing Brahman, one knows everything. The features of Brahman are adreshyam. This means adrishyam or cannot be seen. Brahman is not available to the mind and sense organs. Buddhi indriyanam, karmendriyanam, agamyam. Brahman being the subject himself is not available for objectification. Agotram, meaning there is no moolam or lineage, no cause or birth. Avarna means not having any properties. Achakshu Shrotra means that which does not have the instruments which reveal the nature of the Nama Rupa Vishaya world. Brahman being pure consciousness illumines everything without requiring the mind, sense organs, or the organs of function. Agrahyam. Brahman does not grasp because it does not have organs of action to grasp. It is agrahakam because it cannot be grasped as an object. Nityam means eternal. Brahman transcends time and space, subject-object duality, and therefore cannot be destroyed. Vibhum means vividham, in different forms ranging from Brahmaji to the ant. Ya Brahmadi pipili kānda tanushu prota jagat sakshini. Sarvagatam means vyapakam akashavata or all pervading. Susukshmam, extremely subtle, devoid of all attributes. Shabda adi sthulatva karana rahitatvat. Avyayam means never weakened, never disintegrated. Being without attributes, there is nothing to lose. Being all-pervading, it cannot be separated from anything. Whatever exists, exists in association with Avyayam Brahma only. Finally, Bhuta Yonim, meaning Bhutanam Karanam, the material cause of the entire creation. Only people with discriminative intellect, Dhiraha, meaning Dhimantaha or Vivekinaha, are able to realize Paripashyanti, the Aksharam or Brahman, everywhere as the Atma Bhuta, the very content of the essence or essence of everything. This realization of Brahma is called Paravidya. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anupama, for giving us a crisp, clear explanation of all that can be explained, that I can understand the difficulty. The moment we listen to verses like this, suddenly a person who's listening for the first time can be thoroughly put off. But remember, these are verses in answer to that question, what is that knowing which everything becomes known? And to a prepared student who has some knowledge of Sanskrit, that means he knows the meaning of all these words, the moment he hears these words can be ecstatic because these words are talking about my true self. Adreshyam. See, I can see everything, but I cannot see myself. We are talking about my true nature. I can grasp anything, but I cannot grasp myself. Agotram. This body and mind has birth, but this essential in me has been always there and therefore there is no birth. Avarnam, it has no attributes. Because it has no attributes in time, it's nityaha. And because there is no attributes in space, it is sarvagata. So then it says it has no eyes, no hands, no feet. Sometimes the teacher becomes a little poetic in trying to explain our true nature. So continuing, my true nature is nityam. My true nature is vibhum. See, there are certain fundamental principles that we need to meditate on. I am the nature of all pervading eternal consciousness. And that comes from the word nityam, vibhum, sarvagatam, susukshmam. That means it is extremely delicate. That means it is like performing a very delicate surgery. When a person has to perform a very delicate surgery, the student has to wait for years watching a teacher before he's able to get to it. So be patient. You will get to do this delicate surgery on yourself because it is a very delicate process. But if that interest is there, tad avyayam, you will discover that which is also aksharam, which cannot be destroyed. Paripashyanti dhiraha. Dhiraha means the wise person, the spiritually prepared person, is able to understand these words. Tell yourself, let me not be put off by these complex set of words, but all these words are describing our true nature. The last mantra for today will be by Chaitana. Over to you, Chaitana.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. In our experience, the intelligent cause, nimitta karanam, is usually different from the material cause, upadana karanam. For example, to make furniture, the intelligent cause is the carpenter, and wood is the material cause. And for ornaments, goldsmith is the intelligent cause, and gold is the material cause. But scriptures say that Brahman is not only the intelligent cause, but also the material cause of this universe. Abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. But how can one entity be both intelligent and material cause? This 7th verse, with the help of 3 examples, reveals this through the cause-effect relationship between Brahman and the universe. The verse says, Yathorna nabhi srajate grihnate cha. Yatha, just like Urna nabhihi, the spider, srajate, creates, and grihnate, withdraws the web into itself. Yatha, just like Prithviyayam oshadaya sambhavanti, just like from one earth, Prithvi, variety of plants, aushadaya, are born, sambhavanti. Sataha purushat keshalomani, and keshaloma, hair on the head and body, are born out of purushat, human being. Tatha, in the same manner, Vishwam iha sambhavati, the whole cosmos is produced, akshara, out of that imperishable Brahman. Each example given here highlights different aspects of Brahman. The first example given here is that of the spider and its web. We know that the spider creates its web with material taken from its own body. That's why it's called Urna Nabhihi. And when it is disturbed, it absorbs the web back into itself. So the spider highlights 3 aspects of Brahman here. One being that it is both the material and intelligent cause, abhinna nimitta upadana karana. Second being that it is the cause of creation, srishti, as well as the cause of dissolution, laya. And third being that like the spider's web, the creation is not destroyed, but goes through stages of manifestation and unmanifestation. Then the second example is that of the emergence of variety of plants from one single earth. Even though the plants appear to be different from the earth, they are nothing but earth because all the earth elements are also present in the plants in a refined form. Similarly, even though Brahman is one, it produces a varied world, so many forms, colors, smells, taste, etc. This example shows that from one cause, Brahman, many types of effects are born. Then the third example of hair on the head and body, and also even the nails, shows that a cause can produce dissimilar products. That is, just as the sentient body produces insentient hair, Similarly, from the sentient cause, Brahman, the insentient world is born. The significance of this example is that the body has got one nature and it produces hair which is of a totally opposite nature. Similarly, Brahman produces a creation which is a totally different nature. This is called Vilakshana Shrishti. For example, Brahman is invisible, Adrishyam. World is visible, Drishyam. Brahman does not decay, whereas the world, everything in this world decays. Brahman is immortal, Nitya, but everything in the world is mortal, Anitya. Thus, the third example shows Brahman can produce a world of a totally different nature. In conclusion, through three examples, this verse shows the cause and effect relationship between Brahman and the world. The spider example was used to show that Brahman is the cause and world is the effect. One earth creating variety of plants highlights the fact that this varied world is the manifestation of Brahman. Finally, the example of the sentient body producing insentient hair was used to show that Brahman produces a world which is a totally opposite in all respects. Therefore, Brahman alone appears as this world, and by knowing Brahman, one can know the world. Thus, Shaunaka's question to Angiras in the beginning of this chapter, in this Upanishad, is answered. Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaitanya. So, Shaunaka's question has been answered. Now, what is the rest of the Upanishad for? See, this is the beauty of the Upanishadic teaching. Right in the beginning, the teacher gives the answer. Like Om Purnamada Purnamidam. The answer is given in the opening words itself. Of course, to understand these two verses will take us the rest of the Upanishad. And I will tell all of you who are new to the world of the Upanishads to be a little patient. Be patient. That means if you are in the world of the Upanishad, I will ask you to, depending upon your past background, it takes a few years to be able to get the real import of these two verses. The previous verse, which Dr. Anupama explained, Adreshyam, Agrotram, Avarnam, Achakshusotram, those are called the Swarupa Lakshana of Brahman. That means its true intrinsic nature. They are very difficult to understand. This verse is called the Tatastha Lakshanam. Tatastha Lakshanam is in relation to the effect. Now, if there is a beautiful world, there must be a cause. And what is the cause? We will say Brahman. And then this mantra gives us so many examples because there is no example for Brahman. Brahman can never be given as an example because there is no example for it. And yet the Upanishad tries. The great masters will say, Yatha Urnanadi, just like the spider creates and brings back, so too Brahman creates the world and brings back the world. Just like the earth, so many plants come out from the, there are, and then Tata Kesha Lomani. So from the from one earth, so many varieties come. And then the last example is from the conscious body, the inert material comes. Then there is a term called Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam. That means Brahman is both the intelligent cause and the material cause. How can Brahman be that? Now, I create my dream. All right. Who is the creator? I am the creator. I have created a dream world. Everything in the dream is also my own creation. So dream is another nice example to say how I can be the Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam. Dear friends, all these verses today, if you can listen to them again, and if you can go to the original text and read whatever notes are available, these things will help you to understand the glory of this most beautiful Upanishad. That is how the great beginning starts. And I will tell you, every class is going to be as wonderful as this. Our next class is going to be the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, also the Vibhutis. The Vibhuti means, can I find God in the world? And the first 5 verses we will be studying in the next class on the 3rd of January. We'll conclude today, as Shiv Kumar has said, we have one of our youngest participant who has taken away from her parents. Her parents were due to chant this. They were practicing. She has listened to it and she said, give me a chance. I will chant this. So Aditi, over to you.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Ratnaikalpitamasanam himajalai snanam cha divyambaram nanaratna vibhushitam mrigamada modankitam chandanam jati champaka bilvapatrarachitam pushpam cha dhupam tatha Deepam devadayanide pashupate hritkalpitam ghrayatam Sauvarnena varatna khandarachite patre ghritam payasam bhakshyam panchavidham payo dadhiyutam rambhapalam panakam Shakhanāmayutam jalam ruchikaram karpura khandojvalam tambulam manasamaya virachitam bhaktya prabho svikuru Chatram chamarayoryugam vyajanakam chadarshakam nirmalam Veenabheri mridangaka halakala geetam chanrityam tatha Sashtangam pranati stutir bahuvidha yetat samastam maya sankalpena samarpitam tava vibho pujam grihana prabho Atma tvam girijamate sahachara prana shariram griham pujate vishayopabogarachana nidra samadhi stitihi sanchara padayo Pradakshina vidhi stotrani sarvagiro yad yad karma karomi tattadakhilam shambho tavaradhanam karacharana kritam va kayajam karmajam va Shravananayanajam va manasam va paradham vihitam va sarvametat kshamasva jaya jaya karuna Te Shri Mahadeva Shambho Jaya Jaya Karuna Te Shri Mahadeva Shambho Shri Mahadeva Shambho Shri Mahadeva Shambho Hari Om. Thank you.
Hearty thanks to our beloved Dr. Timmappa Hegde sir and all the esteemed teachers of Paravedanta for your excellent presentations. A special hearty congratulations and blessings to our little Kumari Aditi for your wonderful recitation of the divine Shiva Manasa Puja in your sweet voice, invoking the blessings of the Lord Shiva on this auspicious Margashira Mass for all creation with impeccable pronunciation and the rhythm or tempo which is specific to each shloka. Thank you, participants, for joining us in today's study, having completed the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord explained about bhakti and his glories. We shall be welcoming the new calendar year with our next 69th session on the 3rd January 2020, with continuation of our Bhagavad Gita study from verses 1 to 5 of the enchanting 10th chapter, Vibhuti Yoga. In this chapter, the Lord desires to increase Arjuna's bhakti by describing his infinite glories and opulence. Do remember to log in on time and continue this wonderful journey of enlightenment. Friends, I take this opportunity to thank you on behalf of Param Vedanta for your generous voluntary contribution to the collective Guru Dakshina to be offered to our Gurus on the holy occasion of Gita Jayanti. Irrespective of the amount, big or small, which is only a relative factor, the thought and action is highly appreciated. Do remember to update your details on the Google Forms using the link provided in our message. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.